Hi, guys, and welcome, I guess, to my first legitimate review discuss. I just really want to talk about comics. That's really why I'm here. Maybe I'll get a better intro later. But this particular one, I wasn't expecting to do my first review or first, discussion, is about a little thing that came in the mail earlier today. A single issue comic that has almost been immediately released by the name of Godslap. And if you're wondering, let me just give a little bit of context. If you've never heard of it, it's completely justified. If you have heard of it, then you're subscribed to a particular person on YouTube, or you just happen to browse through Twitter every once in a while and you got into one of those little fringe corners. You see, Godslap is, well, at least to the best of my knowledge, is an idea that came up between the mind of many of his friends and a one Charlie White. Charlie White being Moist Critical himself, Penguin Zero. Oh, one of the biggest Twitch streamers around and a pretty damn good YouTuber, if I had to say. But, yeah, there's really nothing else to say much about it when it comes to the context of it, because, like I said, only one issue. And I just wanted to say that this is oddly promising. There's something about it that just seems a little like if I guarantee if I've got a tour of where he keeps all the sort of ideas for this, there would definitely be little cork board, and he's over there button up t-shirt looking like Charlie Day from Always Sunny with the Pepe Sylvia thing in the background. I'm trying to think of all right, now we know how it's going to go, because this is, I wouldn't say it's like the greatest start to anything. There's no initial shock to it, but I guess I should probably get into what it's about. At least for the first issue, I have deduced here's the basic premise of what happens in it, and I just want to let anybody know that going into it from this point on, well, I don't know if this really counts as spoilers, but, first issue, if you want to read it for yourself, then, like I said, Google Godslap, and this will probably be one of the first things that pops up, other than, maybe a song on Spotify. But if you don't want to know anything about it, and you want to get it for yourself, wait the few weeks to get the issue shipped in, or you want to buy anything else related to it, click off now, it's fine. Everybody gone? Everybody who wanted to do it paused and are ready to go towards it? Alright, let's get into it. The first issue of Godslap starts out with, random people in this futuristic Blade Runner style strip club, where the girls are, I would say nude, but then again, are robots technically naked? Whatever. You see these characters, the middle-aged businessmen kind of talking amongst their drinks and being like, man, I love women and booze. And then out of nowhere, you just see a hole in the person's head appear. And something that I like about this whole series is that it's not, I don't want to compare a ton of stuff between what I know, because then that feels like it's just a ripoff, but this is definitely an interesting style. It has very similar tones to Sin City, a comic series that I love, but I have ridiculously few amounts of it. I really need to get more. It's pretty much a noir style to it, where it's all done in black and white with no colors added to it whatsoever, but when when certain events happen, colors are very distinguishable when they show up. So when you see the general thing, it's a strip club. It's supposed to be bright, colorful, there's shadows in certain areas. You want to illuminate some of the people, but it's all black and white. Until the businessman that it has the focal point on ends up somehow having a hole appear in his head like he just got shot and he falls over. Now that is the first instance of color where it shows blood. And it kind of continues past that point, where suddenly it's revealed that there is a man who just showed up named Darius, who's introduced, and he essentially just kind of goes through the whole thing and wipes out everybody that's in there, John Wick style. And as he, like, goes through it, he eventually just, like, looks up at one of the cameras and is like, I'm here, man. And then he does some sort of flick, and it ends up destroying the camera, the monitor, and the person looking at the monitor, while there is a secondary person named Saul in the very back. Sal, whatever you want to say. Once he's like, I'm coming for you, man. And the door swings open to the security room where Saul is, and Darius and Saul meet each other. There's a little bit of a back and forth between kind of like a threatening sort of thing going on, where there's definitely like past history. You know, kind of like, if you kill me, you're never going to be safe. Hey, is killing me really worth it? Is it really worth him? Him referring to an off-screen character that we don't know about yet. And then Saul Darius says, yeah, it's pretty worth it. And then does like one full, like, hard slap across. Slapping is the main form of, like, just everything. At one point, it's kind of, I'm not sure if it's depicted that he's, like, slapping and then deflecting bullets back at people, or he's slapping and then generating bullets back at people. But it's kind of a weird power system, but it seems like it could have, like, that sort of shonen anime style thing to it, where there's like, it's a really simple thing, but the more you like dive into it, the weirder and wackier it could get. But, you know, in this case, very brutal, since there is lots of depictions of blood and murder in like 15 pages. But nonetheless, he just kind of like eviscerates one hand, open hand slaps Saul and eviscerates him completely on the spot right there. And then there's kind of a little bit of inner monologue in like that little half-page section, and then he drives off, or he leaves, and then he essentially just shows up on a hover cycle. Just imagine the hover cycle from Subnautica. If you know what I'm talking about, then that's pretty much the description of it. And he ends up showing up outside of a place where he meets, where he says, like, it's all worth it for, and then, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, it's A-I-U-S. Aius? I'm going to say it like that. Aius. He essentially shows up and says, how's it going? Aius is noticeably younger, long black hair, bigger muscles, overall shirtless, or at least really handsome guy. And he's just sitting out there, like, I think he's dismantling something, looks like a ladder, and then it kind of cuts off there when it goes into everything. Now, I know this is just the first issue, but this does seem like it has much more promise than it needs to. This is coming from the creative mind of a guy who, for lack of a better term, plays with dildos and somehow makes money off of it on YouTube. I don't know how that works. But I am genuinely interested. Like, this may be a series that, like, I buy issue by issue, and for context, I don't do that. I usually show up to series that are completely finished and then work my way through them all, or at least if they're mostly finished, then I try to work my way through that. But this, very short, very simple, you know, the beginning of a fight scene in John Wick, and then he just blasts through everything to reveal the actual main character that they haven't even gotten to yet. And there's just something about it that, like, alright, it took the entire first issue, but you have my attention. I want to know what's going on here. It doesn't help that, like, cool art style, really good art, I have to say. Like, the art in this is fantastic for somebody that doesn't have, like, any experience in comic books. I know the artwork in here is done by one Ricardo Jamie. I may be saying that wrong. But the art in this is fantastic, and I wouldn't say the dialogue is anything special. It's very, like, I don't want to say tropey, but it does have that, like, B-movie charm where there's not a lot of it that really means a lot. There's a lot of, like, what the fuck, and what the hell, what's going on? A lot of swearing, but that makes sense coming from, you know, him. But honestly, there's not a lot that I can say about this that hasn't... I guess there is. Has promise. I liked it, and it feels like there could be a good amount more coming from this. If this ends up doing no more than like, I don't know, a 10 issue run, then I'd be completely in for it. That's a really good. That still has promise. It has a lot of cool angles that I could work with. But hell, if it goes on for nearly as long as any of the other series, then by all means do it. This looks like it could be a lot of fun, really cool, gritty art style, gritty just world itself. I love sci-fi, and yeah, look at that. Over 10 minutes spent on something that's 15 pages long. Neat. Well, I guess I'll see you guys later. I'm Red, and I'll be back.